Hey guys, it's Matt with BleepinJeep.com. Today we are working on the Scorpion Crawler project here. We are narrowing the rear end, and I'm making a frame strengthener because I kind of chopped the frame. I brought it in. Now I need to tie that back in where it's going to be strong where I cut it. But then I also want to make it a lot stronger back here because we're eventually going to be having shock hoops and all that attached, and the frame rail on the Cherokees is real thin, and we're going to beef that up with some 1/4 inch plate. So today I want to show you how I'm going about doing that, so stay tuned for that. So when we did the middle sections up there, it was a lot easier because it was pretty flat. There was just a couple slight bends. Back here it gets a lot more complex because there's these curves that you have to follow. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, but let me take you to the table and show you how I managed to do that. I've been using this foam core to make templates for anything that I want to build, and I really like it because it's 1/4 inch thick, just like the steel that we're using. And it's pretty solid, yet easy to cut and manipulate. So what I started out with was just a piece of foam core in the right width. So I measured the width that I wanted, cut out a flat piece even though it's curved. So then all you need to do is anywhere that you want to go up, you want to bend up, we're just going to cut a V. When you do that, then you push it together, you can see it kind of makes that bend. Anywhere you want to bend down, you just cut a straight notch, and then you can bend it down like that, and it opens up. We'll have to weld that back together. In that case, if you cut the notch just right on this side, it's a lot easier to weld back together because it'll fit just perfectly. But it's pretty difficult to get that notch in the correct position that you want. Now on the other hand, we're doing the bottom, we're doing the outside, and we're doing the bottom. So this is the piece that I cut for the bottom. It's not quite perfectly straight. It's got a little bit of a wedge shape to it, but it's pretty basic. I just taped this to the bottom. Anywhere that it needs to bend, I just cut a little notch in one side of the foam board. So it bends like this, and then you shape that to the shape that you want it. Anywhere that you want to put a bend, you just mark it and then cut one side of it. So by the end of it, I had it all mocked up, completely perfect on the frame. I had it taped together like this at a 90-degree angle, and everything looked good. Once I got that perfect, then I took it off. I cut it open, I straightened these pieces back out, and then I laid that on a piece of 1/4 inch plate, so similar to this table, and then I just took a Sharpie and made a diagram of what I needed to cut. So after that I took my plasma cutter and I just started cutting, and we ended up with something like this. So this was one piece right here. Here's the cuts where I made the V notches, and here's the cuts where I made the straight notches. I did the same thing on that bottom piece, and then I clamped them to the frame and tacked them together. Brought them over to the table and welded them up. Now what you can't really see on camera is there's other angles in that frame too. It's not just these angles that have a curve to it, but it's also curved in this other plane. So right here, anywhere I needed to make a curve like that, I took my plasma cutter. I didn't cut all the way through. I just cut, I left about 1 inch, in which case it's really easy to bend it. So 1 inch or 1/2 inch, something like that. And then when you clamp it down, it takes that shape, and then when you tack it together, it just holds there. So anywhere I needed to bend, what would that be, in plane or left and right plane, I did that. Anywhere I needed to bend up and down, I did it like that. And so on the bottom you can see I did a lot of these cuts too. What's kind of interesting is that if you make one of these out of plane cuts like this on one side, then you're going to need to make a V cut on the opposite side so that it fits together. It's really hard to explain what I'm talking about here. Hopefully you can kind of figure it out. Here's another example. If I made a straight line cut and bent it out of shape this way, like this, obviously this bottom section here, I don't need to cut it all the way through. I just need to cut it so that it will bend slightly. We'll weld that back up once we get this perfect. I guess another thing I forgot to mention is that I welded this all up when it was perfectly straight. So it looked like one big piece of angle iron, and then that's when I came back and I made the cuts everywhere that I had marked and then bent it all into shape. So when it's all said and done, this is what it looks like. I still need to grind a little bit there so that I can weld it all up. But it just fits like that. I need to clamp it, obviously, because it kind of pulls up a little bit right there in the corners. Need to push it up over there with the jack. But once I get that clamped in place, I'll be able to just weld all of this on here, weld those V's shut, and then we'll be good to go. Do it on the other side, obviously. Alright guys, so that is the frame for the rear of the Scorpion Crawler project. I know that might have been a little boring, but hopefully you learned something. You guys asked for me to show you everything, so this is it. This is what I'm doing. It's kind of slow and boring, but I think that's going to make it a lot stronger for crawling. On the front, I still have to do the front part of the frame, and for that I'm going to use these, which we talked about before. This is the Rough Stuff frame strengtheners, which are meant for the middle section here, but since I went with this other kit for the middle section, I'm going to modify these for use on the front. The reason I didn't use these for the rear is because there's a bevel right there, and that's the frame on the Cherokee is beveled in the middle and the front, but not on the rear. On the rear it's got a 90-degree angle, so these wouldn't fit on there, so that's why I had to make my own for the rear section. So please do go to the website and buy a BleepinJeep t-shirt. I'm not wearing one right now, but you can find them at BleepinJeep.com/store. That really does help support the channel. And hit the subscribe button and tell your friends about us. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
All transmissions have been canceled.